The wind howled like a banshee that night. A blizzard had slammed into our town, turning everything white and making the roads impassable. Perfect, I thought. This was my chance. You see, my parents, bless their hearts, had a complicated relationship with my independence. They saw me as a kid, even though I was 22, gainfully employed, and paying rent. This snowstorm was the key to unlocking the next level of freedom, or so I thought. And when I tell you how it played out, well, it got twisted. Really twisted. Hey everyone, it's your pal, back with another story that still makes my blood boil a little. If you're new here, welcome. Smash that like and subscribe button if you enjoy stories about people who deserve what they get. And trust me, this one is a doozy. It all started with the usual suspects, my mom and dad, and me, Emily, the still a kid, adult child. We lived about a 2-hour drive apart, but my parents, being parents, always felt the need to be involved in every aspect of my life, from my career to my love life, and even my grocery list. Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, all the family get-together holidays, were always a trial. It wasn't that they were bad people. They just didn't see me as an adult. That's the most concise way I can put it. The storm hit on a Friday. I was working from home, sipping coffee, and watching the snowflakes fall. It was the kind of day that made you want to curl up with a good book and a warm drink. The world outside was transforming into a winter wonderland, a soft, white canvas being painted by nature's brush. The flakes were coming down thick and fast, swirling in the air like tiny dancers. The wind, though, was already starting to pick up, whistling a mournful tune through the gaps in my window frames. My phone buzzed. It was my mom. The familiar ringtone, "Here Comes the Sun," filled the quiet apartment. I picked up, a slight sigh escaping my lips before I even said hello. "Emily, darling. The weather looks awful. Are you going to be all right?" All right? I was perfectly all right. I had a fully stocked fridge, a roaring fireplace, and a stack of books taller than my cat. I had everything I needed to weather the storm in comfort and style. But I knew what was coming. This was the preemptive strike, the opening salvo in the ongoing battle for my perceived helplessness. "Yes, Mom, I'm fine," I said, trying to keep my voice light and casual. "It's just a bit of snow." "Are you sure? Maybe you should come home. You know, just in case." Home meant their house. My childhood home. The place where I was still treated like a teenager, subject to curfews and constant check-ins. I was, frankly, tired of being treated like I couldn't handle a little weather. "Mom, I'm 22. I'm not a child. I have food, heat, and a fully functional adult brain. I'm good." I could almost hear the unspoken words hanging in the air, asterisk, "But are you sure? Can you really handle things on your own, asterisk?" She sighed, a sound I knew well. It was the sound of resignation, of reluctant acceptance. It was the sound of her giving in, but not without a fight. "Well, if you change your mind, you know where we are." "Thanks, Mom," I replied, my tone carefully neutral. I could feel the familiar tension in my shoulders, the subtle tightening of my jaw. It was always like this. The need to prove myself, to justify my existence as an independent adult. My dad joined the call a few minutes later, echoing my mom's concerns. "Emily, are you sure you have enough groceries? Do you need anything from the store? Should we come down and check on you?" "Dad, I just talked to Mom," I said, trying to keep the exasperation out of my voice. "I'm fine. I have food, water, and a whole library of books. Seriously, I'm good." He paused, then said, just be careful, okay? These storms can be unpredictable. The phone call went on for about half an hour. They asked about the roads, the power lines, the possibility of flooding. Each question was a subtle dig, a reminder of my perceived fragility. Eventually, I managed to placate them, promising to call and check in periodically. I assured them that I would be vigilant, responsible, and would not, under any circumstances, venture outside unless absolutely necessary. But I could feel the undercurrent of disapproval in their voices. They thought I was reckless, irresponsible. They didn't trust my judgment, my ability to handle even the simplest of inconveniences. It was a feeling I'd grown accustomed to, a constant hum of underestimation that always ran in the background of our interactions. After I hung up, I stood by the window, watching the snow continue to fall. It was a gorgeous sight, the way the flakes danced and twirled in the wind, the way they blanketed the world in a pristine layer of white. I felt a surge of exhilaration. This was it. My chance to prove them wrong. My chance to finally be seen as the capable, self-sufficient adult I knew myself to be. I spent the rest of the day enjoying the peace and quiet. I finished up work, focusing on the tasks at hand, feeling a surge of satisfaction as I ticked off each item on my to-do list. The snow continued to fall, but I barely noticed. The apartment was warm, the coffee was strong, and my workload was under control. I then made a delicious dinner, a hearty chicken and vegetable stew, the perfect antidote to the cold weather outside. The aroma of herbs and spices filled the air, making me feel warm and safe. I settled in with a book, a gripping mystery novel that quickly captured my attention. I felt free. For once, I wasn't under their watchful eyes. There were no calls, no check-ins, no constant reminders of my perceived inadequacies. It was glorious. That night, as I was drifting off to sleep, my phone buzzed again. It was a text from my mom, just checking in, "Sweetie. Are you sure you're okay? The roads are getting worse." I considered ignoring it, but the guilt gnawed at me. I knew they'd be worried sick if I didn't respond. So, I shot back a quick text, "All good, Mom. Sleeping like a baby." Then, I turned off my phone and went back to sleep, reveling in the silence. The next morning, I woke up to an even deeper blanket of snow. The world outside was white, silent, and breathtakingly beautiful. The snow had piled up overnight, transforming the familiar cityscape into a hushed, magical realm. The trees were weighed down with thick layers of powder, their branches drooping like the arms of tired giants. The silence was broken only by the occasional gust of wind, which sent small puffs of snow swirling through the air. I knew my parents were probably panicking. The news was likely filled with dramatic warnings about the storm, and they would be glued to the television, watching the weather reports with a mixture of fear and concern. I decided to let them stew a little longer. I made pancakes, enjoying the simple ritual of cooking breakfast. The smell of frying batter filled the kitchen, mingling with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. I poured myself a large mug, savoring the warmth that spread through my body with each sip. I caught up on some movies, enjoying the escape from reality. I spent the morning doing exactly what I wanted, without having to justify it to anyone. Later that day, I got another call from my mom, and then from my dad. They were in a full-blown state of anxiety. Their voices were tight with worry. The familiar feeling of being a burden, of failing to meet their expectations, began to prick at the edges of my joy. "Emily, the news said it's the worst storm in decades. Are you sure you have enough food? What if the power goes out? Can't you just come home? We're worried sick." They wanted to see me as helpless, as unable to cope with even a little inconvenience. They wanted to coddle me, to protect me from the perceived dangers of the world. But I wanted to be seen as capable, as independent. I was tired of their overprotectiveness, their constant need to control every aspect of my life. And that's when I saw the opportunity. I needed to teach them a lesson. This wasn't about the snow, it was about control. They needed to see me, really see me, as the independent adult I was. I formulated my plan. I would let them sweat. They would worry. And then I'd come through. I wouldn't ignore them completely. I would provide just enough information, just enough worry, to keep them invested in my plight. On Sunday, the third day of the snowstorm, the calls became more frequent, more desperate. The news was reporting the worst of the storm was over, but the roads were still impassable. I started letting my calls go to voicemail. I let the missed calls pile up. I imagined the flurry of activity on their end, the frantic pacing, the worried phone calls, the hurried discussions. When I did finally answer a call, I made sure to sound slightly overwhelmed. I was careful not to go overboard, to avoid raising any unnecessary alarms. I had to walk a fine line between appearing vulnerable and appearing incompetent. "Oh, the roads are still pretty bad, Mom," I'd say, feigning a sigh. "It's hard to get out. I don't know how much longer I can cope. There's nothing to do around here." "Are you sure there's not a way you could?" "I don't know. Come home?" came my mom's slightly frantic question. "We could make you your favorite meal, have a fire going for you." "Maybe," I'd say vaguely, letting a long, dramatic pause fill the air. "I'm just bored. And a little stir-crazy." I could picture her on the other end of the line, wringing her hands and worrying. And that's when it happened. I got a text message from my dad. "We're coming to get you. Don't worry about a thing. We're bringing supplies." I could almost picture them, bundling up in their parkas, shoveling snow, and packing their car with groceries. The bait was set. I felt a flicker of guilt, a sharp pang of regret for the trouble I was causing, but it was quickly overcome by the satisfaction of my plan. Then, I decided to let them sweat it out. No calls. No texts. Total radio silence. They wouldn't be able to leave the house until the roads were plowed, and that would depend on when the plows got to my area. And they'd be relying on my silence to guess whether I needed help or not. It was a dangerous game I was playing. It was a game I wasn't sure I wanted to win. I spent the next 3 days basking in the silence and the freedom. I did what I wanted, when I wanted, without having to answer to anyone. I worked, I read, I watched movies. I even started a new hobby, learning to bake sourdough bread. The days were filled with a sense of accomplishment and self-sufficiency. It was the kind of quiet contentment that had been missing from my life. The snow kept falling, but the sun was starting to peek through, heralding the beginning of the thaw. 3 days after the storm hit, the roads were finally cleared. The plow had been down my street, leaving a pristine trail of fresh asphalt. I checked my phone. 63 messages. Missed calls galore. Voice messages filled with worry and concern. Some were just funny. My mom was worried sick, my dad was trying to stay level-headed, and they both clearly loved me. I knew, with a grim certainty, that they'd spent the last 3 days planning the rescue mission, coordinating supplies, and rehearsing their pep talks. There were messages from my mom asking if I was alive, if I had enough food, if I was warm enough. There were messages from my dad, practical and reassuring, detailing the steps they were taking to prepare for the journey, and gently reminding me to stay safe. My voicemail box was overflowing. There was a message from my mom, her voice trembling with fear, asking if I was all right, if I needed anything. There was a message from my dad, calm and steady, telling me they were on their way and to just hold on. And interspersed among the frantic pleas were the voices of other family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, all weighing in and offering their support. I even had a couple of messages from my sister, who had been deployed overseas, and was checking in to make sure I was safe and sound. And there were some friends who had been trying to reach me as well, offering a much-needed laugh. Finally, I decided to end their misery. I dialed my mom's number, trying to keep my voice light and casual. My heart was pounding in my chest. I took a deep breath. Here goes nothing. Hey, Mom. Sorry I haven't been in touch. Things got a little crazy. The relief in her voice was palpable. It was like a weight had been lifted, a dam had burst. Emily. Oh, thank goodness you're okay. We were so worried. We were just about to head over there. Are you all right? Do you need anything? I'm great, actually, I said, letting a slight chuckle escape. The snow was beautiful. I finished that book I started. I'd been working on my new hobby. I paused for effect, making a huge batch of sourdough bread. There was a beat of silence on the other end. I could almost hear the wheels turning in my mom's mind, the gears of confusion slowly grinding into place. I imagined her expression, a mixture of bewilderment and disbelief. Then, she finally said, her voice small, You're okay? I am, I said with a grin. And, I've been meaning to ask, how are you doing? My parents showed up at my apartment later that day, loaded down with groceries, as though expecting to find me on the verge of starvation. They had brought enough food to last a small army for a month, canned goods, frozen meals, fresh produce, even a box of my favorite cookies. They looked exhausted, their eyes red-rimmed and tired. As they walked through the door, my mom's face crumpled. Tears welled up in her eyes. Why didn't you call? She asked, her voice choked with emotion. We were so worried. And that's when I told them. I explained the situation. I told them how I felt about their constant worry, their inability to see me as an adult. I told them, in no uncertain terms, that I was perfectly capable of handling myself. I told them how much I loved the freedom and the independence I had felt in those 3 days. I spoke honestly, laying bare my feelings, my frustrations, and my desires. It was a difficult conversation, but it was one that needed to be had. I told them that I loved them, that I appreciated everything they had done for me, but that I needed them to trust me, to let me live my own life. They listened, mostly silently. My dad, usually the calmer of the two, looked genuinely hurt. His face was etched with a mixture of sadness and concern. My mom, on the other hand, started to laugh. A low, shaky, almost hysterical laugh. She was trying to maintain her composure, but the emotion of the situation was clearly overwhelming her. Then my dad started laughing too. They laughed and laughed, until tears air streaming down their faces. The laughter filled the room, breaking the tension and allowing a sense of relief to finally settle in. Oh, Emily, my mom gasped, wiping her eyes. You got us. You really got us. You know, my dad said, still chuckling, maybe you are an adult after all. That's when the twist happened. After they'd calmed down, my mom pulled out a small, beautifully wrapped package. It was the kind of present you would expect to be given on a birthday or holiday. I stared at it, unsure what to expect. Here, she said, handing it to me with a sheepish grin. We got this for you. Just in case, you needed something. I opened the gift. Inside was the most ridiculous thing. A snow shovel. A bright pink snow shovel. It was a garish, attention-grabbing shade of pink, the kind that would make Barbie jealous. The handle was heart-shaped, adding an extra touch of absurdity. They had even included a small, fluffy pair of earmuffs. I couldn't help it. I started laughing too. They got me. I had thought I had won the battle, but they had, in their own way, won the war. They couldn't resist being parents, even after I'd supposedly proven my independence. They cared. Even their joke gift was a way of saying, "We love you." It was a declaration of unconditional support, a reminder of the deep, abiding bond that connected us. The laughter continued, the sound echoing through the apartment. We were all exhausted, emotionally drained from the past few days, but the overwhelming feeling was one of love and connection. From then on, things changed. Slowly, but surely, they started to trust me more. The calls became less frequent, the check-ins less frantic. They still worried, of course. That's just what parents do. But the constant feeling that I was still a child began to recede. The pink snow shovel? It's in my garage. I never use it. But I keep it. It's a reminder of the blizzard, the lockout, the 63 messages, and the laughter. It's a reminder of how much my parents cared, and how sometimes, a little bit of revenge can actually bring you closer. It got twisted, all right. But in the best possible way. The shovel is a physical embodiment of the whole experience. Every time I walk into the garage, I see it, and it brings a smile to my face. It's a tangible representation of the love and support I have, even if it comes in a ridiculous, pink package. It's a reminder that sometimes, the best things in life come in unexpected forms. I also keep the voicemails. I save the messages, the panicked ones and the funny ones. I listen to them when I'm feeling down, when I need a reminder of how much I am loved. They are a testament to the strength of family ties, to the bond that can withstand even the most outlandish of pranks. I think back to that moment when I first saw the pink shovel, and how surprised I was. I had expected anger or disappointment. I had prepared myself for a lecture, a scolding. But instead, I was met with humor and understanding. It made me realize that my parents weren't trying to control me out of malice. They were just trying to protect me, to keep me safe. They were acting out of love, even if their methods were sometimes misguided. It wasn't an easy journey. We had many discussions, many arguments, and many tears shed along the way. We are still learning to navigate the complexities of our relationship, to find the balance between love, respect, and independence. But we're getting there. We're slowly but surely building a foundation of trust, understanding, and respect. The pink shovel serves as a reminder of how far we've come, and how much we've grown, both individually and as a family. It's a testament to the power of laughter, forgiveness, and the enduring strength of love. So, what do you guys think? Have you ever had a similar experience with your parents? Did you ever prank someone, and did it go sideways? Tell me your stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. And until next time, stay safe, and don't let the snow win.